Well, hello everyone. It's good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever your time zone is that you're connecting in. Great to see people coming into our space here and also seeing some familiar faces. So yes, you can wave. You can. We'll have some time when you can unmute and ask us questions as we go through. But what we'll do is I just shift things around here so I can get to see my screen a little bit better. And I will get started by introducing myself. I'm Karen Bonanno, one of the Genius educators with Genius School. And I'll just share my screen so that we can start off in the right space here of welcoming you to ignite the genius in your child. And we're hoping that you're going to be curious about this particular topic as we go through. So as I said, I'm Karen Bonanno and I'm a member of the Genius School team. I have an education background in high school and secondary education, and I've been involved with Genius School for a number of years now. And one of the roles that I play is as the leader of the Young Entrepreneur Academy program. So that's one of our programs, and I'll just get Kerry to introduce herself as well.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Karen. So my name's Kerry. I have a background in early childhood education. A little thing about me is I enjoy cooking and spending time in the garden. I'm also the micro camp leader for Genius School. And on the side of that, I'm a teen health mentor as well. So I really enjoy spending my time with the kids and helping them excel into their best selves.
Great. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you. So let's give a little bit of information about Genius School. You can see there are a number of points that we can talk to, but probably the main focus is that we are very child oriented and child centered, and we engage with the kids at a personalized level, because what we do is we connect with their natural capabilities and talents and nurture that along a learning pathway through our various programs that we have. So the main point that we've got there is that we are igniting the genius in children. And it might be curious as to why the word genius, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But every person has a uniqueness about them, and it's really just us finding that uniqueness and then building the skills and capabilities of every young person, and including the adults as well. So we are involved in creating that high level of self-awareness, and also then taking that self-awareness and helping them to become lifelong learners. So we're teaching them various things about what it is to be a learner, how they can take charge of their learning, so that then they can master things and develop high-level skills that will see them into their future. And that's where we do empower them to be future leaders. And in particular, because we work globally, we have lots of kids connecting, and they then attach themselves and get connected with all different activities at a global level with other kids. So it's an amazing experience for us to see them stepping up and the transformation that takes shape as they engage with us. In our programs, we're doing a number of things in our curriculum. We're learning, of course, because that's something that's crucial for young people in this day and age. We're also getting them to be creative, to exercise and demonstrate their uniqueness with all the things that they do whilst they're with us. And in the latter part, which is a part that I'm involved in with the Young Entrepreneur Academy, it's getting them to develop businesses that allow them then to earn. So they're learning and creating and earning all together with us in the Genius School programs. Now, you might wonder why we use the term genius. And often we have people say to us, well, hey, what do you mean by genius? Is this a program that's for people who are, gifted, talented, really smart? And we go, no, let's go back to the origins of where the term genius came from. And it started way back in ancient Rome. And in ancient Rome, if you think about the word, your genes, not the pair that you pull on and wear, but your genes as in your unique DNA. And everybody has this level of uniqueness that they're actually born with. So you have this unique spirit or personality that you get at birth, and then you carry that through your whole life. And then later on, as the history kind of evolved and people began to understand the word a little bit more, we have the Latin origins emerging. And you can see here it comes from two Latin terms, genius as meaning as above, and then ingenuum, which is a noun related to your natural inborn dispositions that you have. So it is this unique blend of the concepts of being divine and also being talented. And it's Einstein who has said the phrase that everybody is a genius. And so everybody has this opportunity to tap into their uniqueness. But what's happened over history is that we have kind of distorted the word genius. And so people tend to think of it now as someone who is gifted or talented or smart or a protege. But really, if we go back to the origins of the word, we know that everybody has this level of uniqueness. And what we need to do is really tap into that and nurture it and help our young people in particular to grow into their own uniqueness and their own individualism. So what we're going to do for this particular webinar is cover off on a few different points. The very first one is about the importance for young people to understand their natural talents and how they can exercise and use them. The success that they can experience when they play to their strengths, when they engage in their own level of discovery and curiosity. And then looking at different strategies that we'll share with you, whether you're a parent or you're a guardian, or you may be even a grandparent, or you have an interest in the work of young people. We're going to look at some strategies for discovering and developing natural talent, and through a three-pronged process. The show up, so that's learning about their path of least resistance because of who they know that they are. Then the stepping up is really how they own their own genius and have the courage and boldness then, and looking at how they add value by connecting in with other geniuses as well. And the last part is always we endeavour to instill in our young people the sense of giving back. That when they know who they are, they can also then look at how they can give back either to their community or family or their school or wherever they're involved. So we ask them to consider that so that they're doing that in a meaningful way. And then we'll talk about the Genius School solutions and programs where we nurture all of these particular elements. But to start with, we all know that we've been through a very interesting time over the last 12 to 15 months. And so as a result, we've seen lots of different changes in the way that education is beginning to happen and the way that young people are engaging in learning. And there's been some significant shifts along the way. Now here, this is an article that has been written by the United Nations, and it talks about kind of the extent of what happened within the pandemic, but it also identifies certain things where education needs to change. And the United Nations Deputy Secretary gave this particular quote at a forum recently, where she said, "As we look to the future, it is clear that there is no going back to the education we had before the emergency. If we are to realise the ambition of the Sustainable Development Goal 4, then we need to pursue pandemic recovery efforts that transform education." And that's really where we're focused as well. Genius School is all about quality education, and quality education is providing that equal opportunity to become a lifelong learner, regardless of your age. Now, for us at Genius School, we focus on the pre-teens and teens. And so we're delighted to be able to address achieving those quality education goals in the work that we do. And in the last 12 to 15 months, we have actually been supporting the endeavours of the United Nations because they have focused on the need to engage people beyond just the traditional education sector, to say, how do we bring about change here so that we make sure that we're transforming education so that we're reaching every child. And so for us, all of our programs are in a virtual learning space with a combination of virtual, but also now in some areas and countries that we're involved in, we can go back to face-to-face. But all of this is all focused on igniting and developing the genius in young people. Now, the reason why we believe that is absolutely important is because they're going to face this different future than what we have been experiencing in our past. And we often hear the term that they're going to be going into jobs that haven't even been identified yet. So with that in mind, these are some things that have happened around the world and are currently happening that create a difference for why we need to be supporting our young people. The very first thing is that we're seeing that automation, so that's even artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, robotics, all of that is having a huge impact on the job prospects and opportunities that are out there. And so what we're seeing is a lot of employers, a lot of entrepreneurs are now realizing that it's going to be more about the way that you think that's going to be important for you, that's going to give you that opportunity to go ahead. And so that's why 90% of the future jobs are going to require a focus on digital literacy. Now, what that means, if you don't quite understand that, it's how you use technology to be able to effectively communicate and engage and inform and be involved in the world around you. So it's being literate in using the digital technologies and tools and the information and the data in whatever avenue of life that you're pursuing. Then there's the aspect of globalization. And so we're seeing here that with globalization, everybody now has an opportunity to be employed. And I know for me, for those of you who are kind of wondering of accent, I'm a good Aussie. And so even in Australia here, we know that a number of jobs have been outsourced overseas because there are people who can provide the services. So I've seen it in areas of work like accounting, virtual assistants, all sorts of things. So everybody has that opportunity. So it's important for us to make sure that with globalization, we're providing the chance for every child to be able to develop skills and capabilities and talents that will help them to be able to be effective in a global community. And then the last major driver that's changing things in particular has been noticed in the last 12 to 15 months is this shift to flexible work, that many people have either been redeployed or they may have been moved into other locations, or they may even be without a job and then they're working out how they're going to take things forward. Well, what's going to happen is a third of the workforce, and it's going to grow, are going to be involved in the area of flexible work. So that means you're going to have some sort of portfolio to be able to keep moving around and providing your services and your programs, your products and whatever else. So for our kids, we need to prepare them for this space. So if you're wondering what that flexible work might look like, then it's an array of different things. So there's the part-time work, which many of us are familiar with. There's casual work, which we've all heard about. There's this whole area of growth now for self-employed, where people are starting small businesses. And so they're out there with their time and experience and their programs, all the rest of it. And then there's the gig work, which is emerging. So that means the person has their particular talents that they have, and they go out and they offer their services for a particular period of time, and it's short term and it's project based, and it may only be for weeks, months or whatever. And so it's a case of they're constantly needing to be aware of what they're capable of. And this is something that we focus on with the Genius School programs, is that we help them to identify what they are unique at. So their unique genius, those innate dispositions and talents, and how they can use that as they step into the world of work. One of the documents that was a pre-COVID document, which looked at what was happening in the context of schools for the future, this came out of the World Economic Forum. Now, it may be a little bit small to read, but we're going to make the slides available to you after the webinar. So there'll be an email that'll come and it'll have details in there. So you can look at this a little bit more closely. But just for the time being, we'll look at some of the big components here. So there's, on the left-hand side, we have the particular skills. So the skills that we're needing for our young kids is global citizenship. So that's all about being aware of the world around them and the aspects of sustainability and the part that they can play actively in the global community. Then there's the innovation and creativity skills. And this is all about the higher thinking. So it's getting the grey matter between their ears functioning and operating, and really starting to look at how they become these discerning, critical users of information and the creation of information as well. There's the technology skills, and we're living in a technology-driven world. So it's understanding the technology and the digital skills, things like programming, use of technology. And then there's the interpersonal skills, which is all about their social emotional intelligence, which is absolutely crucial, particularly now. So that's in the area of this self-awareness and social awareness. So that's the skills that they focus on. And these are skills that we embed throughout our programs to make sure that we're nurturing our kids on their learning journey. And then on the right-hand side, we have the different type of learning environments where they will get that experience that they need to be able to learn and be comfortable and feel safe and secure in that space. So we personalise the learning and we allow them to go at a particular pace. We also get them accessing learning so that it's inclusive. So it doesn't matter where the child is coming from, what abilities they have. We look at engaging them in the whole learning and connecting with others. And then the collaborative learning is absolutely crucial, where we have them involved in working together in teams, and they're problem solving and they're creating and they're engaging in learning tasks and activities to develop their knowledge and understanding. And then also the skills that we give for this lifelong learning, where they can take charge of their learning and direction, which they will be needing to do as they enter the workforce. So there's some key elements that we focus on, and it's this little graphic is a great one to identify this. So there's three things. There's the smart learning, smart thinking, and smart doing, and that aligns with what we call our genius smarts. So everybody has a unique genius smart, and so we have particular tools that we use to help kids to identify that. So then when they understand their genius smarts and even their combination of their genius smarts, it helps them then to engage in smart learning. And so for their future work opportunities, they're going to be learning more on the job. Rather than having all their formal education done and then it's all done and dusted and then they go off into the working world. They're going to have to continue to work because of things that I was sharing before about the automation, globalization, and flexible work. And then there's the smart thinking. And this is where it's crucial for them to begin to understand that they're going to have to be exercising certain things like critical thinking and problem solving, making judgments, exercising the science, technology, engineering, mathematics components, also developing their effective communication and presentation skills, as well as their interpersonal and interrelation skills, because of a global world that they're working in. So people are going to be needing to develop these skills, and in particular our kids as they step into their future. And then the last part is the smart doing. So it's all well and good to be able to teach them how to learn and how to think, but if they don't take action from that, then it's kind of, they're not fulfilling some goals and some achievements that they may have set themselves. So the smart doing is there, and this is where it's crucial to see this part here about the need to develop entrepreneurial mindset, because this is what the world is all about. Because we're going to have robots and artificial intelligence and virtual reality and augmented reality all doing some of the common natural day-to-day chores of a job, it might mean that we're going to have to be able to be entrepreneurial in the way that we engage in the world of work. So that gives us some background. So here I want to move on to some strategies, because I'm seeing at the moment we don't have any questions in the chat. So you can put questions in the chat. Kerry will be there, and we've also got Penny in the background as well. We've got some of our team here to help us out. So please put information in there or comments as we go through. So now I'm just going to change gears here and now go into looking at some of the strategies whereby we can help kids to develop their natural capabilities and to be their own unique genius. So the very first part is showing up. So focusing on what they're good at. So here's some ideas that you can use. What you can do is, even as a family or even with your teen, if they don't want to do it with you, get them to brainstorm about all the unique things, unique strengths and capabilities that they have, and maybe even ask friends and family, because sometimes often we downplay the things that we're really good at because we may not, we don't want to blow our trumpet, so to speak, or we don't want to be too brazen in saying we're good at this and we're good at that. So it's good to get that other view from friends and families. So you might even ask them this little question: give me 5 words you would use to describe me when I'm showing up at my best. So that can be the friends doing 5 words. It could be family, it could be peers, it could be a teacher, could be a coach if they're in a sporting team. So what happens then is they get all of these different words, and then they can choose which ones that they really feel that they can own. So this is something that we do at a higher level within our genius camps, where we actually have tools that we use and some little self-assessment tools to help them to quickly identify what they are good at, what, as I said before, what their genius smarts are. And so we get them to identify that, and then we help to explore that so that they begin to understand some of the unique characteristics about their genius smart, and some of the areas where they can understand, well, how can I bring my genius smarts to be working with other people? Or how can I understand how I can actually think better now that I know of my particular genius smarts that I have? How can I then also learn better? So for instance, we know that everybody has kind of blended ways, but also natural and unconscious ways that they learn that they don't even think about. It just naturally comes to them. So it could be that they gravitate more towards visual learning, or they might be auditory. They might love to hear conversations and stories and people debating and discussing, or they might want to be more hands-on and get their hands on activities so that they can engage, or they might demonstrate or exhibit something, or they might just really want to go into the detail and look at all the step-by-step processes and the logical steps behind it. So there's different ways that we approach our learning. And for our kids in our programs, when they understand that, they can start to have these aha moments, because they will know then what gets them into flow, what gets them into a zone where time just races by, and they go, oh, wow, mum's calling me for dinner, and I haven't heard her calling me, because they're so engrossed in what they're doing, because they're in that natural zone where they're using their skills and capabilities. Also then how they would relate to other people, because what we want them to understand is when you get to understand yourself, you become more self-aware of the other people around you as well. And then we focus too in developing some core leadership capabilities, so that they know that regardless of where they are in the world, they can actually step up and be a leader when they know who they are. And so it's important for them to understand this high level of self-awareness, so that they can be confident and they can develop their self-esteem and their self-worth. And so this is one young student that we had, because our programs do run from about 10 years old through to 18, 19. So this is Lyndall, who was in her first year of university. So she went from the formal structure of education, where it was very guided and very directed and very, very structured, to suddenly finding herself at university and kind of going, I really don't know how to learn. I really don't know how to set my directions. I really am unsure about what I'm doing. So Lyndall came to one of our Genius School events, and was able then to, through the activities that we're engaged in, you can see here, she was able to create a goal and get her schedule in place, but also understand how she could learn at her best. So that was in her first year of university. Then if we move on to another set of strategies, this is at the next stage. So we start off with the foundation of knowing yourself. Then we do this step up. So now that you know yourself, let's get you to own your genius, but also to value the other people around you, because what you might be good at, someone might not be so good at. So if you can team up together, you can be this high synergy level of doing some amazing and awesome things. And this is what we see in our genius programs. So a little thing that you could do at home with your kids is get them to identify their passions. You know, what do they get really excited about? What interests them? And so get them to do a little brainstorm again and jot down things that they're really passionate about. And then for them to create what we call their hairy, audacious goal. So set themselves something that's really quite out there, that could be this awesome achievement that they could achieve within a period of time, by being able to follow their passions and using their natural talents. Also get them to involve their friends, because it's more fun, it's more exciting and engaging when you've got your mates and your buddies and your best friends with you on this whole journey. And then that way, then you can start to value each other. So a question that you might get your child to ask themselves is, what have I done recently where I've shown, and whatever their strength is, and what value did I add? So for example, it could be that they say, my strength is being artistic. And so the value that I add is that I can create great artwork to decorate our family home to bring joy to everybody. So what we want you to do here is to focus on some of the positive aspects of the strengths that they have and some of the amazing things that they add value to. So it could be even that they say that their strength is that they are a natural leader. And it could be that the value that they add is when they're with their sporting team, they're great at leading and inspiring and igniting the energy within their team so that they can play this great game. There's always ways that we can look at how our strengths can add value, not only for ourselves as individuals, but also for those around us. So that's what you can do at home. And then what we do within our Genius School programs and our Genius Camps in particular, we get our kids to really start to bring together all of the things that they know about themselves so that it really starts to get them connected with each other. So for instance, this word here that you see on the screen, the Icky Guy, is all about 4 components that we bring together. And that is what I'm naturally good at, what I'm really interested in, what my passions are, what the world needs, and then where I can add value, whether that value is that you're going to create something that will bring you some wealth in the way of money or bring you wealth in the way of just being blessed by the ability that you've got to be able to reach out and serve others. So we get them to start thinking about that. We also help them to understand that throughout life, as they journey through life, it's really important for them to focus on their health and their well-being, because if your health and well-being is not exactly robust, then it will impact on how you perform in various circumstances. We get them thinking about mindfulness, being mindful of themselves, nurturing and caring for themselves, but also being mindful of others. And in particular, when we get them engaged in activities where they're working together as teams, and we're actually blown away on many occasions by what these kids will actually produce when they engage in these activities. And I'll share one of those with you shortly, where in a few hours, they were able to pull together an amazing presentation that they shared with us. So at our camps, we see a lot of transformation when we get kids to this stage. This is Katie, who's year 7, which is the first year of our high school here in Australia. And for Katie, she was really anxious. She was finding it really hard to settle into her first year in a new school. And she also didn't believe in her own skills. And she felt that she should be doing better, but didn't really know how to do that. So she spent, in this case, it was a 2-day camp with us. And by the end of it, she was able to understand and how she could nurture and utilize her natural skills to get the best out of her life, but also to bring out the best in others. And so she knew then that if she played to her strengths, she could get the results that she wanted. And that was really great to see just in 2 days, the transformation from a really shy, withdrawn young girl to being able to be part of the group activities and not feel that she was being left out, and being able to step up and own who she was with the group. So they're amazing things that we see happening. So in this next one, this is our last strategy idea we're going to share with you. Because I said we want our kids to understand that it's not just all about them, it's about the world they live in and how they can contribute back to their community or society or however. Now, the interesting thing is people have kind of thought that giving back to their community is something that's more recent. Well, if you can see here, I've managed to find information about Sir Patrick Geddes, who was a Scottish town planner. And he has this quote here where he says, "Think globally, act locally, urges people to consider the health of the entire planet and take action in their communities and cities." So way back then in the late 80s, we've got this person is already starting this whole trend that we see emerging of how people are looking at taking care of the planet and their communities. And of course, we have the global goals, the Sustainable Development Global Goals that have been identified by a number of countries that they're looking to achieve the targets by 2030. So that's where we plug in with the kids to get them to start thinking about that. But it's great to know that this concept has been around for a long, long time. It's not some new fad thing that's suddenly emerged. So as an example here, when we were early on doing a face-to-face event, this is a number of our campus here were meeting with Les in this picture. And Les has this group he calls Pristine Peninsula. And it's located in an area near me where it's opens up onto an area called Moreton Bay. And it's in an area where the whales come through in their migration season. And he is really focused on making sure that the waterways and the beaches and everything are clean of all the plastics and microplastics. So he was sharing with the girls. Now, you won't be able to pick it up here, but where I'm just doing a little circle here with the mouse, this is where he was sharing with them a plastic bottle in which the microplastics that the animals would consume, or the sea creatures would consume. And so they were looking at that. And he was saying that each day when he goes on his walk, he's picking up this, and he now has these big cleanup weekends and days, and he's engaging the school community. And so here our young people for the camp, we were on the beach or near the beach, and so we went out during our break and we were able to pick up bits and pieces. Now I love that he's got his little mascot in the back here, which is called Michelle. Which is quite interesting, you know, Michelle, bit of play on words. But he found this on the beach, that after a weekend of family activity, he found this plastic turtle lying on the beach. It had a puncture in it, so it had deflated, but the people had just walked away and left it. And he was really concerned about this because he knew that this was a whale migration area. So if that would have been caught up in the tides and gone out into the ocean, that the whales may have thought that this was a juicy morsel that they could eat, and then think of the implications. So he uses it as his mascot to send his message out to people. And so what Les is doing, he's giving back to his community, and he's very active, and he engages young people and inspires them to be involved. So with our camps, this is what we get them to think about as well. So as I mentioned before, there's the Icky Guy. And so this is where we look at getting the kids to identify, and we even get them to score what they're good at. So how well do they perform to their natural talents? How aware are they of their natural talents? And then what do they love doing, their passions? What does the world need? So this is where we get them to start thinking about, well, is there a theme around the global goals, or is there a global goal that you really identify with, just like Les identifies with life under the water? And then we get them working together, and they come to this common understanding in their teams and their groups to start to develop a message that they want to get out there to people. And we only give them a few hours to do this, and we're amazed at the work that they can produce. And what we're developing here is their ability to work together. So to collaborate, but also to develop their skills and know that they're giving back to the community. So this is just an example here of one of the presentations that one group developed. And so they took the global goal, clean water and sanitation, and they developed their presentation. And I'll just flick to that here. So hopefully you can see that. So this was their first slide. And then they went through the process of identifying, well, what is the problem with the lack of sanitation or clean water? And they came up with various points, and they have to agree on this in their presentation. And then they went through and said, well, where and when do people need our particular product? And you'll start to get an idea of what that is. And of course, this was developed when the peak of the coronavirus, the COVID, was happening in Australia here. And so at the time, this is one of our states in Australia called Victoria, and the whole state was in lockdown. And so our young people were concerned, and they wanted to reach out and help people in Victoria to be able to deal with the lockdown and what was happening for them and the impact. So here they say, who needs our solution? And in this case, it was everybody. Everybody has to be involved in taking care of their sanitation and having access to clean water. And then they said, well, how can you help? And they were looking at providing support. And I think if you see here in this image, you get an idea of what they thought everyone should have in their household and readily available at that particular time when the kids were developing this program. And so this is where I think we've got Jody in our call. Have we got Jody, Kerry, online?
Yep, Jodie's here. I think she just might have to unmute.
Yep. So Jody's daughter was involved in this particular team as they put together their presentation. So Jody, would love to hear from you about your daughter's experience with the Genius Camp.
Hi, Karen. Morgan loved the camp. She was very nervous going into the camp. She's a very shy girl until you get to know her. And then when it came time to do the demonstration at the end, I think there were two of them. They took over the whole performance. I think they were nearly going to get a Grammy Award for it. The amount of confidence that came out in them over the couple of days was amazing.
Yeah, I remember that they actually fooled us because they did this demonstration of how you make hand sanitizer. And we were all sitting there going, how are these kids getting hold of those ingredients so quickly? What's going on here? And in the end, they said, oh, look, it's all water. So we were just demonstrating how you could put it together. And this is how we were going to make our product. And I think they even developed their own label and their own company name. So the kids really did a great job. And this is what happens. If we nurture their learning and we facilitate and guide them, they can actually take things to a high level. And so they absolutely blow us out of the water for what they do and what they share. So just to go back here, I've got a little capture here of Jody with Morgan. And so here you can see that as Jody shared, that she was a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous, but it was amazing to see her confidence growing and understanding that she could make a contribution to the global goal and also to thanking us for being there and helping her through the program. So it's really amazing to be able to work with young people to just bring out their natural curiosity and just stimulate their thinking and provide them with the opportunity to step up and do some amazing things. So we've got some other comments here from some of our young people who just love the fun that they have and the opportunity to meet other young people. And because we're working virtually, we connect people from all around the world, and we have kids from all different locations connecting together, getting to know each other. And then the amazing thing is we see them going beyond the time and the experience they have with us, and they can continue to connect and they continue to do amazing things. And for us, we have this kind of proud parent moment where we go, yeah, that's our kids out there strutting their stuff and doing some amazing work. And also too, I think we've got Heidi on the call as well. And Heidi's kids have been through our program. So Heidi, do you want to share something about the changes that you've seen in your young fellows?
Absolutely. I'll speak mainly for Josh because Matt was a few years older and had started finding his passion, but what it did for him when he participated, it confirmed a lot and gave him permission to keep going. So that was great for him when he was a little bit on track. But Josh, mainly because Matt had probably found what he liked to do, was a bit lost. So he went from a boy who liked doing his academic work and liked doing any sort of work and getting in there and doing things to suddenly being a bit withdrawn. This was prior to his camp, Genius School Micro Camp experience. And so being on the mailing list a while, we finally said, yes, let's do this. And it was really good because, again, it gave him permission to be himself when he realized he didn't want to do all this academic stuff anymore, but he wanted to build. It got him permission so that he could build and really sit with something. He didn't have to interact all the time. And yet he liked that as well. So he realized that there were two different things that he enjoyed doing, and neither of them was wrong and neither of them was right. Like he could be himself. So that was really good. So I made a couple of notes. Just yeah, he didn't enjoy even though he didn't enjoy the online learning as much, because the whole course.
Heidi frozen there?
Yeah, it looks like Heidi might have just frozen there. So could just be a bandwidth. So what we might do, we'll go back. But what you can see there is with the work that Josh was able to be involved in with us. And we saw him evolving as a young man and a young person through that process. And he was able to really start to identify his natural abilities, because he had the time to, as Heidi said, he began to understand that if he could get his hands on things and create things in that way, that he was at his happiest. And when we did one task, we had the opportunity where we sent them off outdoors, and Josh just went straight away naturally to start to building and creating something. And he created this massive structure out of the timber and the nails, because that's what he loves doing. So it's an opportunity for where they can do online, but also the offline. So we don't have them sitting online all the time. We do a combination of that. So what I thought I'd do is just check in if there were any questions. So it looks like nothing happening in the chat there that I'm looking at. So Kerry, I might come over to you to share with us as the Genius Camp leader about the Genius Camp program.
For sure. Thank you, Karen. That was an awesome presentation. It's always so nice to hear your wisdom. So on the Genius Micro Camp, so we are a 3 half-day event, and we look to get about 20 to 25 campers to come and to join us. So campers aged between 10 to 18. And throughout this camp, we have a team of qualified educators who are able to, bring the awareness into the children, and so that they're able to be self-confident and grow their self-esteem throughout 3 days. Here it says, come and celebrate your inner genius with us. So we do have lots of camps running throughout different time zones. So that way we are able to cater for everybody around the world as much as possible. Here's us having some fun. I think it was maybe late last year or early this year. As you can see, everybody's getting amongst everything. I think maybe Karen earlier mentioned about how a lot of the teens love to come on board and interact with everybody from around the world. I think that was a really good thing about Genius School. Once we took our programs virtually, where teens were able to connect with like-minded teens from all around the world. And some have stayed in communication and in contact and are still building those friendships along the way. Which I think is really special. It's really cool to be able to connect with teens from everywhere. Even as us, as educators, it's really nice to be able to support them along their journey. So just going, go for it.
Yeah, keep going, Kerry.
Cool. So just here on this page, here we have our global micro camps coming up. So as you can see here, we're going for 3 different time zones. So one for UK, Europe, South Africa time zones, which will be our first event in June. So June 1st to June 3rd. Then we have our virtual, of course, virtual again for NASA. So that's American time zone. So for North, South America and Canada time zone. That one's from the 13th to the 15th. And then we have our APAC, of July. And then again in July, we have our other APAC event, which will be from the 6th to the 8th. So all these time zones, all these camps will be from a 9 a.m. time zone from their specific times. So 4 hours for 3 days. which is awesome. So we do have a really cool bunch of genius educators lined up to be able to help and support on the program. In each of program, we have a ratio of 1 coach to 6 campers. So that way we make sure that there is personalized learning along the way, and we are able to go out into breakout rooms so everybody gets a more of a one-to-one or a small group mentoring.
Okay, thank you, Kerry. Yeah, so it is a blended learning environment that we work in, and we do crazy things, as you see there, and we get people to do things. I actually have, I'll just share my little crazy hat that I have from one of our particular programs, because we do dress up, we do all sorts of crazy things. We don't take it all seriously because we believe that learning has to be fun, and that we believe too that we can personalize a young person's learning. Now, if you're wanting to really get to know more about the micro camps, then you can see here we have a link at the bottom where you're able to book a free call to meet up with one of the team to be able to talk about the opportunity for getting your child to be involved. And you can see that Penny's put the link in here. So it's a link where you can then go to that link and you can look at the time and choose a time in your own time zone to be able to select an opportunity to be able to talk to somebody about, well, what is the Genius Camp all about? You know, what your information about your child, and even make sure that you have your child with you when you come on the call, because we love to be able to meet parent and child at the same time, to be able to talk through the things that can happen at camp, and also to be able to identify what your particular needs might be as well. So it's a free call. It's an opportunity for you to connect in and talk with someone who understands and knows the program, and be able to help you to identify how great this opportunity is for you. So I'm just going to ask one last time, Kerry, if we have any questions.
Just in the chat, Heidi had just written, sorry everyone lost contact, wanted to share how great the experience of Genius School Micro School was for the whole family because of the conversations it opened up and the joy the boys found in their learning. That's awesome. Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, great. And this is what we also find, that there are stronger relationships that develop between a parent or guardian and child, is that you do have richer conversations about what's going on, because we do at the camp, we have also a parent session that's all part of the program. So while the kids are away in their particular breakout rooms working on their project, we have a parent session that runs, and that's an opportunity where the Genius Educator Leader will spend time going through what happened at the camp, go through explaining aspects about the uniqueness of each of the kids, so that the parents can understand what we're doing and the way the kids are learning. And this is where the richer conversations start to happen, when the parents understand the way that they can continue to support their young person through the program. So just doing a close off here, make sure that you grab this opportunity to have this free conversation on a call with one of the team, who'll be able to take you through how the microcamps work and how you can have your child involved in the program. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this webinar, and I hope that you are able to get some tips and strategies that you can use, but also in particular, we would love to have your kids involved with us at Genius School so that we can be supportive of them and help them to grow as unique individuals that will have some awesome impact on the world around us, and help us to all be better people in the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.